Car culture is full of legends, cars we dream about, cars we save for, and engines we admire even when we know, deep down, that they're absolute nightmares to own. Because let's be honest, some engines are exciting because they're a bit dangerous. They make great power, insane noises, unforgettable experiences, and they also make grown adults cry at repair bills. So today we're looking at the top 10 worst engines gearheads still love, the power plants that are iconic, exciting, fun to drive, but also unreliable, temperamental, and shocking when you see how often they fail. Let's get into it. We're starting with a legend, the Mazda 13B rotary engine, an engine that is loved by enthusiasts everywhere and feared by anyone who has ever had to rebuild one. The 13B doesn't work like a normal engine. There are no pistons. Instead, it uses spinning triangular rotors. This makes the RX-7 rev smoothly, scream to high RPM, and feel like nothing else on the planet. But it also makes the engine incredibly fragile. The biggest weakness? Apex seals. These tiny pieces of metal are what seal compression inside the rotor housing. If they wear down, chip, or overheat, the engine loses compression. And when a rotary loses compression, the party is over. Another problem? Rotaries love oil. Not just to lubricate the engine, but because they actually burn oil by design. If an owner doesn't keep topping it up, the engine runs dry and destroys itself from the inside. The 13B is also extremely sensitive to heat. Overheat it once, just once, and you can warp the housings, damage seals, and create a chain reaction that ends with a full engine rebuild. It's an engine that rewards perfect maintenance and punishes anyone who doesn't respect it. But that's exactly why gearheads still love it. It's unique, it's characterful, and when it works, there's nothing else like it. But if you think the 13B is unreliable, the next engine on this list fails in a way that catches owners completely off guard, because it pretends to be normal, right until the moment it destroys itself. The Nissan QR25DE looks totally unassuming. It came in the Sentra, the Altima, the Rogue, normal cars driven by normal people. But early versions of this engine were hiding a very serious flaw. Let's start with the oil consumption. These engines would burn oil far earlier than expected. Some owners were topping up a quart every 1,000 miles, and if you didn't check the dipstick regularly, the engine would slowly run itself dry. But the real disaster, the thing that made this engine infamous, is the catalytic converter failure. On early models, the catalytic converter could break down internally. Little pieces of it would get sucked back into the engine during valve overlap, and once that debris entered the combustion chamber, the engine basically sandblasted itself to death. Cylinder walls would scratch, compression would drop, engines would start knocking, and there was almost no warning. The QR25 also didn't handle hard driving, well-sustained high RPM. It would overheat. Aggressive shifting? You could damage the pre-cat even faster. Later versions were improved, but the early engines built a reputation that stuck. But our next engine isn't quiet about its failures, because when it goes wrong, you'll know immediately, and usually from a cloud of white smoke behind you. Subaru fans, brace yourselves. Because as much as people love their WRXs and STIs, the EJ25 turbo engines are some of the most sensitive, overheating-prone, and head gasket-eating power plants ever made. Let's start with the obvious: head gaskets. The EJ25's head gasket design was simply not strong enough for the heat and pressure these turbo engines produce over time. Coolant leaks develop between the head and block, mixing coolant and oil and leading to overheating. And when an EJ overheats, it does not forgive you. The aluminum block can warp, the heads can warp, compression drops, and you end up with a massive repair bill. But the head gasket isn't the only issue Subaru EJ engines are notorious for. Oil pickup failures. Cracked ringlets, weak pistons, overheating turbos, terrible rod-bearing life when tuned poorly. These engines can make amazing power, don't get me wrong. But they require constant maintenance, and if you slack off even slightly, things go bad, fast. But if you think the Subaru is bad, our next engine is a masterpiece when it's running, and a complete nightmare when it's not. And BMW owners know this pain all too well. The BMW N54 is a legend. It's smooth, it's powerful, and it responds to tuning better than almost any modern engine. But with that power comes a lot of problems. You'll find the N54 in some of BMW's most loved modern cars, such as the E90 and E92 335i, E82 135i Coupe, the E89 Z 435i's, the E65 35i, and the 1 Series M Coupe 1M, the Holy Grail. Let's start with the high-pressure fuel pump. It fails so often BMW had to extend national warranties, and when it fails, the car misfires, goes into limp mode, and becomes almost undrivable. What else goes wrong? Well, you have the turbo wastegates. They rattle and eventually stop controlling boost properly. Then you have the injectors. They fail. Coil packs? They go bad. Electric water pump. Guess what? It goes bad. And because the engine is direct injected, the intake valves get covered in carbon buildup, so much so that the engine needs a walnut blast every 50,000 miles. The N54 can be reliable, but only if you replace nearly every weak component. And that gets expensive, fast. But the next engine didn't become infamous for maintenance issues. It became infamous for lawsuits, recalls, and early catastrophic failures that shocked an entire industry. Volkswagen's early EJ25 engines looked incredible on paper. Strong torque, great fuel economy, big tuning potential. And they powered some of VW's most iconic models, such as the Mark V and Mark VI Golf GTI, and also the Golf R, also the Scirocco that used the 2-liter TSI engine, and a couple of other VAG group models like the A3 and S3, Leon Cupra, and the Octavia VRS. But once people started piling on miles, a huge problem surfaced: oil consumption. And not just a little. Some cars were burning a liter every 1,000 miles. The culprit? A flawed piston ring design that simply didn't seal well enough. Then add in the notorious timing chain tensioner, which could fail without warning and take the entire engine with it. Owners also dealt with carbon buildup, PCV failures, misfires, and diverter valves that loved to give up under boost. The issues were widespread enough that they eventually led to class action lawsuits in several countries, mostly focused on the oil consumption problem. Here's the crazy part, though. When these engines run properly, they're brilliant, responsive, torquey, and amazing to tune. A simple Stage 1 tune on a MK6 Golf R turns it into an absolute weapon. But our next engine didn't come from a brand known for unreliability. In fact, it came from the most reliable brand of all, which makes its problems even more shocking. Toyota makes some of the most bulletproof engines in the world. You'll find the 3VZFE in Toyota Camry 1992 to 1996, the V6 option in the XV10 generation, Toyota Scepter 1992 to 1996, the Japan market version of the same Camry, Lexus ES300 1992 to 1993, Toyota Wyndham 1991 to 1993, the Japanese twin to the early ES300. But the 3VZFE V6 was a major misstep. The head gaskets were poorly designed from the factory. They simply couldn't handle normal operating temperatures long term. Over time, coolant would start to leak into the cylinders, leading to misfires, overheating, and eventually complete engine failure. It got so bad, Toyota had to issue massive recalls and repair thousands of engines. And while the engine can last a long time after being fixed, the early gasket issues destroyed its reputation. But the next engine didn't just have a bad design. Its failures were so catastrophic that many engines never even made it to 80,000 miles. The Chrysler 2.7-liter 5.6. This engine is legendary, in the worst possible way. It was used in models such as the Chrysler 300/300C 2.7-liter VI6 versions, the Chrysler 300M, the Chrysler Sebring, early 2000s, the Chrysler Intrepid, late 1990s to 2000s, along with the Dodge Avenger/Journey. Oil sludge is its biggest problem. Because of poor oil flow and high operating temps, oil would literally bake into a gel inside the engine. This blocked passages, starved the engine of lubrication, and caused bearings to fail. Timing chain tensioners were weak. Water pumps leaked internally, and because of the sludge, the bottom end would often fail with zero warning. Many engines died long before 100,000 miles, sometimes even before 70,000. It's one of the most notorious engines ever sold in America. But while the Chrysler failed because of sludge, our next engine fails because of metal shavings, right from the factory. The Mini N14 engine is one of those power plants that feels amazing when it's working. It's punchy, it's torquey, it's fun, and in the John Cooper Works models, it absolutely rips. But behind all that excitement lies a laundry list of problems that made early Mini owners age about 10 years faster than normal. This engine was featured in models such as the Mini Cooper S R56, the Mini John Cooper Works, and the Mini Clubman S R55. The biggest and most famous issue? Carbon buildup. Because the N14 is a direct-injected engine, fuel never washes over the intake valves. That means oil vapors slowly coat the valves in thick, sticky carbon. Over time, the engine begins to idle rough, misfire, hesitate on acceleration, and eventually needs a full walnut blast cleaning just to run properly again. But that's only the beginning. The N14 also suffers from timing chain stretch, which Mini owners affectionately refer to as the death rattle. You'll hear it on cold starts, a loud metallic rattle that means the tensioner isn't holding the chain tightly. Ignore it, and the chain can jump teeth, instantly destroying the top end of the engine. Then there's the high-pressure fuel pump, which fails so often that it became a meme in Mini forums. When it goes bad, the car goes into limp mode, cuts power, and feels like it's about to give up on life. Oil leaks? Oh, the N14 has those too. Valve cover gaskets, crank seals, oil filter housings, they all love to weep. And if a Mini owner doesn't keep checking the oil, the engine can run low and damage bearings. Even the turbo system causes headaches. Wastegate rattle, failing diverter valves, and boost leaks are all common issues. Here's the thing though. The N14, especially in JCW trim, is a genuinely fun engine. It sounds great, it makes solid power, and it feels lively in a way newer Minis just don't. That's why enthusiasts still love it, but they also know that owning one means being on a first-name basis, with a specialist mechanic. But if you think the N14 is bad, our next engine belongs to a massive V8 with one of the most annoying design flaws ever sold to the public. The Ford 5.4 Triton V8 was used in the 2010 F-150, the 2014 Ford Expedition, 2010 Ford Raptor, and the 2010 Mustang GD, along with a few other models. The power is good. The torque is great. The reliability? Well, not so much. The biggest issue is the spark plugs. They get stuck in the cylinder head and break off when you try to remove them. Sometimes half the plug stays behind, requiring a special tool, and sometimes the whole thing falls into the cylinder. Cam phasers are another disaster. When they go bad, the engine produces a loud ticking noise that sounds like it's about to self-destruct. Timing chain tensioners are weak. Coil packs fail constantly. And the whole top end of the engine is shockingly fragile. Once repaired properly, they can last, but the repair process is painful and expensive. And now, the final engine on this list, a legend in tuning culture, a monster when modified, and also one of the easiest engines to destroy if you don't treat it with absolute respect. Yes, the 4G63 is a legend. It powered the Mitsubishi Evo, one of the greatest AWD performance cars ever built. But this engine is extremely sensitive. Timing belts are a major weak point. If the belt snaps, and many owners neglect replacement, the valves collide with the pistons and the engine destroys itself instantly. Oil starvation is another killer. Hard cornering, track days, or even aggressive daily driving can lead to oil pickup issues, starving the bearings and causing rod knock. Balance shaft problems are also common. If those bearings fail, they can send metal debris throughout the engine and ruin it completely. Turbo seals, overheating, weak oil pumps on older models, the list goes on. But here's the thing. When the 4G63 runs right, it's a monster. Huge power potential, endless tuning support, incredible performance. And that's why people still love it, even though it's one of the most temperamental engines you can buy. These engines might be unreliable, expensive to repair, and frustrating to own. But they're also some of the most exciting, unique, and iconic power plants ever built. Because at the end of the day, car culture isn't about perfection. It's about passion. It's about excitement. And sometimes it's about loving something even when it breaks your heart and your wallet. If you enjoyed this list, make sure to subscribe for more top 10s, builds, and everything car culture.